Everybody, welcome to the first ever Buy Round live show here in Sydney, joined by two amazing guests. One of the regulars of the show, Brandon Smith. Give it up for Brandon Smith, everybody. And also one of the biggest names in rugby league. Some of the younger people in the audience would know him from shows like The Football Show.
The younger people in the audience might know me. That's great. They might have seen a picture of me on a footy card back in the 1950s or 60s.
Exactly. No, he did actually used to play, and he did all right. Did Sterlo. Multiple premiership with Parramatta. Give it up for none other than Peter Sterlo Sterling. Again, as always, our show is not possible without our great partners, and this is all thanks to Ladbrokes. And big thank you to Cam Scott and Lockie Hackett, and obviously Winghouse for making this event possible. So give it up for those two individuals and Ladbrokes. Take on the fun this NRL final series with Ladbrokes. Download the Ladbrokes app today. Chances are you're about to lose. Also, speaking of Ladbrokes, they've put on this event, which is an amazing occasion. All food and drinks are catered for, but it doesn't stop there with Ladbrokes. So there are some prizes, or I think there is a ticket under the table. So ladies and gentlemen, if you want to check under your seats, under your tables, we've got a couple of prizes for Wentworth races for you and three mates. Have we
under the table?
So congratulations to the prize winners. You're going to Wentworth races.
Can I also assume, Jimmy, that Ladbrokes are closely tied up with you? Because I think we should get the elephant out of the room, out of the way. I love the English. Spent a lot of time in the north of England. I love you. You're one of my favourite English people. But we do know what you're like with a dollar. Now, I read somewhere that you put up $10,000 buying 10,000 for tickets for Canterbury players. Do you realise, as of today, that's £5,115 and 92 pence? I know that's not coming out of your pocket, so can we assume? And that look just confirms it.
Why would you assume that?
I know you. And I spent a fair bit of time in England. I saw you get your handkerchief out one day and you had money tied up in the corner. £5,115.
You know what? It's funny. You try and do a good deed, and the amount of friends that come at you and be like, "You've never got me a coffee," and you're doing this. It's like you can't do something nice for like. I'm obsessed. I'm a little bit obsessed with randomness.
Now, well done, Ladbrokes. Thanks for getting behind him and supporting him. That's great.
It has come out of my own pocket. I genuinely swear it has. I'm
You
really looking
actually have never bought me a coffee.
And people have called me Pinocchio.
Do you know what? I've not hosted this event, so you two could just come and like slag me off.
Well, it's the only reason I was here, to be honest, and to catch up with Brandon here.
Yeah. Let's get into it. Anyway, we're going to talk about the Roosters' disappointing performance against the Panthers yesterday evening. I'm sure we all witnessed the game, and you could make a case that it was over after 20 minutes. A lot of controversy in and around the forward pass, which would have gave the Roosters a decent chance. Brandon, come to you first. How did you see the game?
Yeah, I thought we lost the game in the first 20 minutes, to be honest. And, I mean, there was a few bad calls, but... yeah, we can't dwell on those. I mean, the forward pass, they robbed us of a good game, I thought. 24-16 with 20 minutes to go. It was probably a more exciting game, but yeah, the way we started the game, we probably didn't deserve. And at the end of the day, the best team on the ground won that game. And disappointing that, you know, watching the game and how frustrating it was that me and Sammy couldn't be out there helping the team. It kind of hurt a lot, but yeah, I fucking hate Nathan Cleary, eh? I hate him, bro.
I think the first half hour reminded me of first 30 minutes against Parramatta in the grand final a couple of years ago. Like the game was over then, and it just shows against the best sides. I can't let it go. Against the best sides, you can't be on the back foot at the start of it. And physically, Penrith were great in the first 20 minutes, half hour. Early kick from Smith goes too far. Got to get that right because they come down Penrith and score from the next set of 6. Those things just put you straight on the back foot. And Penrith were great. I will say for the Roosters, if you take out the starting halfback, 7, 13 and 9 out of your side, out of any side in the competition, like you're in trouble. And obviously with no Brandon, with no Victor Radley and young Walker not being there, that's a tough obstacle to overcome.
I think to overcome injuries, you've almost got to be perfect. You can't beat yourself. Like when Daniel Tupou made that error in the 5th set of the game, it put Penrith on the attack straight away. Roosters playing off the back foot. They got a 6 again, then they scored. And then I think Tupou made another error not too long after that. And they were almost buried themselves. Like the Roosters, a lot of the scoreboard pressure was self-inflicted, where if they'd have gone set for set, they may have come out the other end and put some pressure on Penrith. But for me, a lot of it was self-inflicted by the Sydney Roosters and their poor mistakes and their poor completion rate.
The thing is, if you ask at the beginning of the season what it takes to be successful at the end, and you put down a series of things, on the top is the health of your roster. And Penrith are really well served there. Nathan Cleary's had a few weeks off, comes back nice and fresh. They're pretty much at full strength. Not a lot of the other sides are at the moment, or haven't been of late. The bloke I want to give a rap to, I think he's the greatest unsung hero in the competition, is Mitch Kenny, the young hooker for Penrith. If you ever look at his first 20 minutes, he sets the standard for contact defensively. Despite the fact he's got Fisher Harris and all these blokes around him, he sets the standard. And if you're going to have a flowing attack, it begins with the first pass. And the first pass is obviously out of dummy half from Mitch Kenny, and he puts it exactly where it needs to be. It's always out in front, players running onto it. He just makes all the right decision. And, Nathan Cleary, Edwards, all of those blokes, but they don't function the way they do without Mitch Kenny doing what he does well.
Yeah, you're completely right, Sterlo. I mean, he knows his role in that side, and it's good service off the ground, and it's setting the tempo in defence. And his line speed, when you kick the ball deep into the yardage, he really sets that standard for the Panthers. And he plays 80 minutes week in, week out, and he's played nearly every game this year. So I've been a big fan of Mitch Kenny's all year, and I really think he is the unsung hero of Penrith at the moment.
Well, when the Panthers took on the Melbourne Storm a couple of weeks ago, we saw Nathan Cleary go down. It didn't look like a man that was going to be playing again this season. He looked shattered. He was dejected. He looked like he'd lost faith in his ability to get himself right. Wow. Like, we assumed he was going to be rushed back for finals. That was the mail. Like, the question marks around the shoulder. Would it be targeted? It looked like he was even more eager than usual to get into the contact. There was a couple of times it was him, Nathan Cleary, hitting holes off other halfbacks when they came back against the grain. It was him putting his hand up to dig into the line and take that tough carry, that courage run, which is usually reserved for people like Liam Martin.
Well, I think it's probably universally accepted he's the best player in the competition. And when you think of the class in the competition, that's some statement. Now, you go back to last year's grand final, he'll even admit that the first 60 minutes of the game, he didn't play that well. But the last 14 minutes, he carried the team home. Like Luai and Yo are sitting on the sideline. His last 14 minutes is as good as I think I've ever seen anybody play. Like, he carried them up into a grand final win on his back. So you've got to have plenty going. Like, he gets great support. And Yo, again, is that kind of player who's underrated with what he does with the football, first receiver and that. But Cleary just gets it right. He obviously works really hard on his game. And, it's a blessing that when he went down a couple of weeks ago, and you're saying it looked dire, that wasn't the case, and he's back fit and healthy. And as, Penrith have timed it really well again. That's great coaching. Like, he's an excellent coach, Ivan Cleary. He just gets his side up. He's like Bart Cummings coming into a Melbourne Cup. He he knows how to prepare the horse and to have it peaking on the right day.
Yeah, one thing about Nathan Cleary, I mean, everyone sees how skillful he is, how great his brain is on the field, and how well he leads. But there's one word that people don't really recognise with him, and that's tough. Nathan Cleary does not come off the field unless he has to come off the field. There's a lot of people that have niggles and they'll call it quits, but Nathan's a competitor, like a natural-born competitor that will die on that field for his teammates, and you know, it's an aspect in the game that halfbacks don't really naturally are born with. They're not really called tough people, but...
Don't look at me when you say that. I can feel you glancing at me. Hey, if I was in trouble, if I look at the opposition and they're going to belt me or Ray Price is next to me, he's going to handle it better than me. I give it to Ray Price every day of the week. Nathan doesn't do that. He'd probably have a short career in the game.
Yeah. Liam Martin's performance was pretty special, going up against the in-form back rower of the season, Angus Crichton. I thought he really stood up and he looked to target Luke Cleary especially.
Yeah, I think we touched on it before. Liam Martin's one of the best big game players in the competition. I think you look at all the Origin performances he's had, the Australian performance he's had in the World Cup. He made the Team of the Year for the World Cup, and yeah, it's just he loves those moments and he loves showing how tough he is and how aggressive he can be with the side. I think he's you know, he's a big part of the team and why they're where they're at the moment.
He's scary, Blake, isn't he? Like, have a look at him. You've got the hair, the eyes, mate. The eyes give it away. When you've got crazy eyes, you know these blokes, they're just... Like, he's got white line fever. As soon as he crosses that white line, it's just on for young and old. You'd rather play with him than against him.
Absolutely, he's a scary human being. Cheese, just quickly to you on the Roosters. Obviously, you played that with the opportunity to get a week off, but you do get a second bite of the cherry coming up against the winner of the Manly and Bulldogs game happening on Sunday. How do the boys regroup and react to that performance and that defeat?
Yeah, I'd love that to be the answer, and I'd love to be invited. But yeah, we're a bit of a stiff at the moment during the finals. But yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of courage to come back from that. I feel like we know we played so bad in that first 20 minutes, and it's sort of something you're going to have to focus on. Whether it's personnel change to start the game. I thought, you know, it was a funny way that the game started with, you know, Nat Butcher instead of Nafahu White or Spencer Leniu, and maybe that's something you can look at just to propel us into the start of the game. Records suggest that every time we get a lead, we hold on to it.
Jared's back next week as well,
Jared's
which is
back.
hugely important.
That's a huge in, but just focusing on that part of the game that we really missed last week. Yeah, hopefully Jared can stay on the field for more than 10 minutes. I don't think he's going to play many games over in Super League. He's probably...
No, well, they're lowering the tackle height to below the armpits, I believe, so... Jared Warrior-Hargreaves, his Google search history will be EasyJet and Skyscanner.
Below the nipple, I think, isn't it? So they'd have to tackle you down here. So you've been in a good panic, mate.
That's it.
They look like that.
It's all right. Something happened.
I know he's injury still, though, isn't he? Just on the Panthers now, they're on, I guess, if all goes to plan with the Melbourne Storm, you've got to assume they're going to beat the Sharks today. The Panthers will play one of the Sharks, the Cowboys, or the Knights. Are they lined up for another grand final appearance? Like, is it
absolutely. They're the favourites. I know that they didn't win the minor premiership, but they're the favourites of, you know, what they've done the last 3 years, and it's a remarkable effort. And you know, for a while there, they were compared to Parramatta were the last team to win 3 in a row. All of those years ago.
Back to Parramatta, every time.
I'm about to
reach back and pat himself on the back.
I've said it plenty of times. It's a better effort than what we came up with because they've done it paying for their success. When you have, like, they win their first premiership, they lose Kickout, Coruscant, the guy who went to
Burton left.
Charlie Staines went, the guy who went to Brisbane. Since then they've lost Crichton, losing more this year, lost money. They paid for their success. When we had success, we had the same nucleus pretty much all the way through, and the only players we lost were internally. We didn't lose them to other clubs. We just had other players come through. So to what they've done, and I think there's certainly the template now in so many ways. I think when they played in the grand final 2 years ago against my old club, I think 14 of the 17 players made their first grade debut at Penrith. Now, if you can do that, you're doing everything right, because it means that you're developing young players coming through, and it means you're buying the right people to come across and make first grade with you. So, and what they're doing is exactly right, and I think they're the favourites to win it this year, and that's despite the fact they've lost Burton, they've lost Crichton, they lose Luai next year.
If they're favourites, who do they play in the final?
Roosters.
They play Melbourne.
Hey. Well, they can't play Para.
No, that's true. I'll give you a race. You and me, over 100 yards at the moment.
Are you that convinced, Stello? It's a two-horse race.
I think so, yeah. And you win premierships on your defence. And I know Canterbury have been fantastic in that regard this year, but they conceded 40 last week. I think we've got a final this week where two teams played each other and they both conceded 40 points last week. Canterbury and Manly.
Yeah.
That's right, like that. You win premierships with your defence, and I think under pressure, Melbourne and Penrith are the best two sides in that regard. And that's, if you have a look at the last 20 years of teams that have won the premiership, invariably it's been the best defensive side. Maybe 2005 was different. The West Tigers played a little bit different style of footy with their short passing and Benji Marshall and Scott Prince doing what they did. But I think they're the best defensive sides under pressure, and they invariably get through to that last weekend.
Just on this era of dominance, and I'm sure it was talked about with the era at Parramatta that you had, is it time to rethink how we equalise the talent?
Well, you equalise the talent now with the salary cap. Clearly, what?
But is there a different way?
I don't know if there's a different way, but...
Sorry, what did you say? Salary what?
The salary sombrero, yeah. I don't want to get too technical here, but the salary cap, it's an art form. And if you don't get it right, you struggle. And the best teams in the competition get it right. And I think the best way to describe the salary cap is, it's 11.25 million a season. You've got to get 30 players into that. So if you divide 30 into 11.25 million, it's 375,000 per player. Which means that whatever you pay above 375,000 for one player, you've got to pay below that to somebody else. So if you pay $1 million to a player in your club, that's sort of 3 players that you've got to... And I know you've got young players coming through, and there are a couple of the... you get something like there's a veteran and developed player sort of what's that, but that's generally what it is. So you've got to get it right. So you look at a side like Melbourne, they take Sean Blair down there this year, Ali Katoa, probably not on a great amount of money, but that allows you to have your Munsters and your Jerome Hughes and your Pappenhausens. Penrith, they've lost all of those players we're talking about, but they still bring these players in to surround the quality that they've got. Canterbury are probably the best example of it this year. I didn't think they could finish in the top 8. I really didn't. But the salary cap is getting value for money. And Canterbury have got great value for money out of the players that they've brought in here this year. Do they have the class to go on and win it? I don't think so. But they've had a very successful year compared to where they've been in the last couple.
Yeah, I think you're completely right with the salary cap. I think all the top teams, they allocate, 40% of their salary to 30% of their salary cap to the spine. And Penrith...
So how much are you on? What do you get?
Not enough. But yeah, Penrith, although they lose all those players, they keep the nucleus, like you said before, of their side. And Nathan Cleary, Jerome Luai, well, he's going, but Jerome Luai, Dylan Edwards, and Isaiah Yeo, they keep them there. Melbourne, who do they have? Harry Grant, Jerome Hughes, Cameron Munster, Pappenhausen, they keep their spine, whereas at the Brisbane Broncos at the moment, they've got Katoni Staggs, who's a centre. He's a great player, but he's on the same amount of money money as a spine player that affects the game so much more. And a lot of teams have that structure. You got David Fafita on 1 mil. He's a back rower that doesn't always play 80 minutes, and I think there's just something that goes along the lines with giving money to the spine.
Yeah,
like the hookers as well. You've got to give the hookers a lot of money.
And the glory boys are
I mean the dummy halves, not those hookers.
Cash only. Cash only.
Cash only, yeah.
Tax free.
They're well known for brown paper bags around this part of the world. That's what I heard anyway. If you pay overs, you're inviting disappointment into your life, and then clubs have done that. And, you know, even a guy, and I have enormous respect for him, but it's fraught with danger signing a guy like Jason Taumalolo for 10 years.
Oh.
You know, it's. I've always thought that you sign a player for long term is 3 years, and then if you're happy and they're happy, you sign again for 3. After 10 years, you're still going to have an impact, but he's not the player that he was. He doesn't play the minutes that he was, but he still takes up a big chunk of the salary cap. And there are just things that you've got to, I think there are guidelines you've got to have to keep that in check. And you know, that makes it difficult for you.
Yeah, well, obviously the salary cap is part of the process to try and not just equalise the talent pool, but equalise where the premierships go. Penrith Panthers gunning for 4 in a row. One of the things that comes with success and continuous winning, Sterlo, is maybe the motivation dials down a little bit. You've been in this position before where you've won 3 in a row, going for a 4th, you got to the grand final. Was there anything different about that day? And like you said, it was the same group for you guys. There was no fresh blood coming in.
I think it's completely the opposite. I think it's some nonsense to say that you lose hunger. And I think the more success you have, the more you want. And you just work harder, you reset every year, you have success 1 year, and then that just goes into your scrapbook. Like, it's not even, it's all about what's to come. And unless you understand, unless you're improving each year, if you stay where you are, you're actually going backwards. And I don't, you know, players and clubs aren't like that. I think the more success you have, the more you want. I think the hungrier you get, and that's just the way that elite sport is. To say that you go into a season without the same want or desire or hunger because you were successful the last year, I think it's a disservice to the players and the clubs and the coaches. I think it's completely way off the mark.
Do you think it maybe helps Penrith then? Like, I remember Sir Alex Ferguson saying, you can't allow a team to grow old together. So by making forced changes, it almost changes how the Panthers play. Look at when they lost Coruscant, right? Teams maybe just figured out how you stop Panthers. We've got Api Coruscant. He goes out, Mitch Kenny comes in, they slightly evolve their playing style, and then they're more difficult to figure out again. And that, allowing that team to grow old together, maybe that can be the thing to lose motivation. You rest on your laurels where you get that fresh blood in almost forced. Like, I look at Blaise Talangi coming in next year. He's going to be so enthusiastic, and maybe they feed off those new players that come in and want to be a part of their success.
I don't believe in resting on your laurels. I don't think any player rests on their laurels. I really don't. I just think that's not in the mentality or the psyche of players. It's just Penrith don't play a whole lot different to the way they did 3 years ago. They've just got better at it, and they do it better than anybody else. You know, the game plan is not that difficult to work out. The hard thing is to stop it. And you know you're successful. You know, Penrith could give you the game plan and you could study it. And even though you know what's coming, there's a very big difference between knowing what's coming and knowing how to stop it. Penrith are just very good. Everybody knows exactly the way that they reset quickly. If you watch Nathan Cleary, there was an instance last night where he's on the right-hand side, he gets in there, first receiver, he raced back to the other side of the field while that play unfolded because he knew where he wanted to go the next play and he knew who was set up on his outside. They're just well drilled, they know what to do, but it's not rocket science. Like, they don't go out there with any trick plays, or every now and then they might do something a little bit different. But if you watch them week to week, they don't change much with the way they play. They just are very good at the way that they put it together.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, they're very predictable coming out of yardage. They're a very predictable team. It's just 4 runs with an outside back. and then they maybe one forward and then a kick. But when it gets tough is when they get inside your 20-metre line, everyone's just moving without much of a structure going on. It's just, they've just got it so well put together that it's hard to defend them inside their 20-metre line, and their whole game plan is field position, and they're the best at it. They're the best at getting inside your half and keeping you out of theirs, and they just repeat the process, and heaps of teams are trying to do the same thing, but they're already falling behind because Penrith's the one that started it. And I think, like Sterlo said, it's hard to beat them at their game because they're the best at it.
They don't waste a lot of plays either. In the attacking part of the game, there's not that many settlers, and if there is a settler or one out, it's to set something up the next play. They don't. I don't understand settlers inside a 20 metre. It's hard enough to get down the attacking end of the field than to just make it easy for the opposition.
Don't waste the play.
They don't. They're insistent. They're always at you, and defensively,
there's always options. Yeah.
Always coming at you.
Stello, just on that quest for a four, Pete. I believe you've heard it say. I've heard you say before it was your best ever game. One of your personal greatest.
Oh no, not my best ever game. I just in the grand final got beaten, and I thought I played better in that game than I did the others.
Really?
Yeah, I'd rather played worse in that game and won than the other way around. But that's the way it happens. And again, whilst the more the game changes, it also stays the same. And we played in 5 grand finals in the 80s. And we had some of the best attacking players the game's ever seen, the likes of Brett Kenny and Eric Groth and Steve Ella, even guys like Mick Cronin. But in 5 grand finals, we only conceded 7 tries, all up. And that was for 4 wins and a defeat. So what won your premierships 40 years ago still applies today. And that's
probably not what you're known for either, is it?
Well,
when you look at that, yeah.
I don't think that when you look at the success of Parramatta back then, I don't think people think of them as dour or, defence orientated. But the grand finals back then were 6-4 and 7-6 and those kind of things, and nothing's changed. Defence will still be a champion in any sport has great defence. Viv Richards could hit a 6 better than anyone. But he still was a great defender. Muhammad Ali could knock a bloke out, but you don't do that unless you've got good defence to back it up as well. Doesn't matter what sport.
We'll just have a bit of order there while the lads are talking. I appreciate we're all having a few beers and enjoying ourselves, but just give us a bit of quiet, please, if that's okay. Cheese, the team before the Panthers started this run of successful grand finals, it was your Melbourne Storm team that beat them. What was that game like, and did you get a sense that they were going to go on this run? But more importantly, tell us from a Melbourne Storm perspective about that day.
It was a great day, but I wouldn't call it my Melbourne Storm team. I think Cameron Smith probably owned that Melbourne Storm team. But it was one of those games, it was pretty scary going against Penrith. It's when they started their climb to the top, and I think they won the minor premiership that year. It was a tough game. And going into the game, I was a little bit nervous. Obviously, they'd wiped the competition that year, and I don't know, it was just one of those things where we got off to a great start like Penrith did against us on the last night, and they still had that champion mentality. Before they had even won anything, they had that champion mentality where they'd never die or they were never out of the game. We were up 26-0, I think, with about 20 minutes to go. I think we only won 26-20. And it could have been a repeat of the Broncos grand final last year, but fortunately we had personnel in our team that really led us through that moment, and it was the best day of my life, or one of the best days of my life, and fortunately we never knew that's where Penrith were just going to keep going. And that's a credit to the Penrith Panthers, Gus Gould, and the system they've built at that club. They've turned no names into superstars. Isaiah Yeo was not even a player we really talked about in-house before that year, and now he's the best lock, or one of the best locks of the last 5 years in a row, and that's just a testament of what a good system can do. It turns people like Lindsay Smith, who's not really known at the moment, but I'm guessing in a few years he's going to be one of the best props in the game, just by or one of the most successful props, just by the system that Penrith created.
He's the most unlikely looking superstar the game's ever seen, Cameron Smith. But he's not big. No, seriously, he's not big, he's not strong, he's not fast, he's not any of the things that you're supposed to be. He looks like an accountant, you know. Like, and no, seriously. But for 10 years, he was the most influential. We've got an accountant in here. You're in the wrong company here. He was just the most influential player. I was involved in Origin there for a little while, and before a series coming up, the coaching staff sat down and was talking about Cameron Smith, and they sort of, on a piece of paper, they drew a square around Cameron Smith as a dummy half as to how to nullify his influence. Just by, we'll concentrate on that, work out how that he can't get out and do what he does. And for the first 20, 25 minutes, that worked really well in the start of the game. But then you could see after 25 minutes that he's realised that he's being corralled into playing a game that's... And he changed his game on the run.
On the run.
On the run. Yeah. What was working for us so well in the first quarter of the game, it didn't continue. He realised what had been done, and he worked a way to get around that.
You've got to have so much trust as well, and strong leadership, because if you're going to change on the fly, if I'm in middle forward or another part of the spine there, and he's saying we're going to switch things up, well, hang on.
Well, we were in trouble. We drew a box. The first time we ran out of boxes to draw. We didn't know where to go, so where to start drawing them. But that's the kind of influence that a great player like he has. And like I say, rugby league you associate with the physical dimensions and the qualities and that. But and Jonathan Thurston's been the same. Great advertisement for our game. Jonathan Thurston's a skinny kid with big ears, but the greatest competitor that our game's seen. And they're wonderful for our game.
Yeah. Cheese, that was the COVID year. Strange time for everybody, but how did the Storm players celebrate? I believe there was an Airbnb booking by Christian Welsh.
We celebrated pretty hard. I mean, that COVID period was a really weird one. I think Melbourne moved to Twin Waters, and that's why I think we had a lot of success as well. We were inside this hotel, or resort, I should say. We're the only team there. We're the only team that had to do that sort of thing. But the connection and bond it built, we got the partners and stuff involved, and we really were the tightest group I've ever been a part of. It was crazy, and going through that sort of tragedy together, it was nuts. But yeah, on to the celebration. So after the grand final, we had to fly back on the plane straight back to Sunny Coast. We were stuck back in the resort, and I think we were there for 4 more days, and then we could go have our celebrations. And me and Munster drank piss that whole 4 days.
So hang on.
Everyone drank piss, but me and Munster drank piss. You know what I mean?
So hang on. The game was at Suncorp Stadium. And then you had to fly to the Sunshine Coast.
No, the game wasn't at Suncorp.
Where was it?
Where was it? Yeah, it was...
Oh, yeah.
It was at ANZ.
Yeah, so it was.
I was second guessing myself there. It wasn't at Suncorp.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, and then we had to fly back to the Twin Waters. We stayed there, and then on the 4th day, they brought in 2,000 fucking jerseys to sign. I didn't have a wink of sleep. Munster hadn't had a wink of sleep, and they just all lined up on the thing. I'm like, what's going on here?
Hang on, you got to sign B. Smith. It's not like Pappenhausen or Wally Smith or something. It didn't take long.
I don't know. I remember just seeing people asleep on the tables, and we're signing these jerseys, and me and Munster actually cost the Melbourne Storm 56 grand because we were riding like Mickey Mouse and stuff on the jerseys, and man, we thought it was hilarious. And then we got a phone call from the memorabilia people like, we can't sell any of these. It was only like 20 or so that we did it on, but we ended up, instead of me and Munster getting like 17 grand for the memorabilia payout, we ended up having to donate it to everyone else in the team. So that sucked. But then off we went. Jumped in the car with Cooper Johns. Munster actually couldn't go. He tried to ring Wally Lewis. Not Wally Lewis. He tried to ring Wayne Bennett and asked if he could come to Byron with us, but because of the Origin being at the end of the year, he didn't let him. But yeah, then we went to Byron, and there's not a lot I could probably say on this microphone that happened in Byron. But I do remember the trip there. After that 4 days on the piss, Cooper John said, all right, we'll share the drive to Byron from Sunny Coast. I was yeah, no worries. I passed straight out in the front seat, and I woke up, I was like, mate, how long do we have to go? And he goes, yeah, we're fucking here, mate. Thanks for the help. So, yeah, it was a perfect trip for me, actually, and then I flew straight into it again.
Great work. On a more serious side of things, we've spoken about the amazing work and success of the Penrith Panthers. You were coached by Craig Bellamy. What is it that sets him apart and makes him sustainably able to keep producing the level of performance, especially with players that not much is expected of?
Yeah, like I've got such a great relationship with Craig. I genuinely love Craig Bellamy, like on a personal level, and what he's done for me off the field and on the field. But I think the way he operates is he gets the best out of his players. He doesn't demand perfection from you, but he demands you to try be perfect. And even if you weren't perfect, it's not like he's going to be angry at you. As long as you fucking tried your hardest out there on the field, as long as you put in effort. He's not a very technical guy. He comes up with some weird stuff sometimes. He's a bit of a Fruit Loop, but at the end of the day, it's all. I feel like he learned a bit from Wayne Bennett. It's all about working hard for the guy beside you, and I think the way he does it is just he gets the best out of his players. He knows how we are on a personal level. He gets involved with our family life. He gets involved with every aspect. And if he wants that one-on-one conversation with you, he'll have that one-on-one conversation with you. He knows his players. He'll never yell at players in meetings that don't like being yelled at. Like Nelson Asafa-Solomona, you yell at him, he's going to pack the shitty for the whole day.
Really?
Yeah. He's going to pack the shitty for the whole day. He's going to be upset. But Craig will yell at him on a personal level. He doesn't like shaming people in front of the group. Me, he could say whatever he wanted. It's water off a duck's back. And I've copped a lot of those sprays. But I think he's got an unbelievable ability to know his player and know how to get the best out of them.
I'm hoping Jason Riles can come in next year and do what Cameron Ciraldo has done this year.
Just on that, what does Riles need to do?
A lot, yeah.
How long have we got? Well, I think he's got to. It's a tough thing. It's a big. The first thing that I think he's got to do along the lines of what Ciraldo has done, there have been decisions made by players this year at Parramatta that I don't think were team-first decisions. And until you get players on the same page as to what everything you do is for the good of the team. I'm not naming names, but I think it's not difficult to work out who I'm talking about in some instances. Everything should be for what I can do to make this team and club successful. And I don't think that's been the mentality, and that when you go back to culture, that's what was addressed this year at Canterbury, where I think they might have lost their way a little bit there. And the other thing is defensively. Well, I know I'm raving on about that, but now, the last 2 weeks, how do you lose a game scoring 34 points and how do you nearly lose a game scoring 44 in consecutive weeks? Defence is about two things. And you've got to understand defence. And the person who put it best is Trent Robinson, who said defence is a moving organism. That each play, it's got to move. Even if you're 30, 40 metres away from where the ball is or what, you've got to still react, because invariably if you don't go across there, even if the ball goes that way, it'll come back and find you. The game does that for you. You've got to have trust and you've got to have communication. And Parramatta don't have that defensively at all, but they also don't have a basic understanding of how to defend.
Well, does it come down to understanding that system, but also the things you speak about with the moving organism? I think you've got to be fit. And if you look at the Bulldogs and how they defend, they lack the size, but what they've got in abundance is fitness.
But if you get the other parts of your game right, if you understand defence and you all move economically defensively, you don't tire like you do. Even with the football, if you play smart football, that helps the way you are defensively. It's all interconnected. But eventually, the game's about stopping the opposition, getting over your line, and the amount of times Parramatta have conceded tries when we've had 5 players there and they've had 5 players there, yet they still got an overlap or still found a way through, it doesn't cut it in the NRL.
So how long do you think Riles is going to need in order to see Parramatta back challenging to make the 8?
Well, mate, I'd like to think that we'll see an improvement next year, and then we'll see. There's only one way for us to go, The big thing about Jason Riles is that he's a coach that hasn't coached first grade before, but he's been in systems that have been successful. So I think he understands what success looks like. The job now is, can he translate that across as a first grade coach into his own team?
Is his biggest task getting people like Mitchell Moses, Will Penasini that have got these player options? I think Dylan Brown has player options. Like, that must be...
Well, you get rid of them. The first thing you do is you get rid of those options. I'm old school. You sign a contract, and I know it works both ways. Clubs will get rid of players even when players will want to leave as well at some stage if they're not happy. But get the options out of it. Like, to think that... I think one player there's got 2 options coming up in the next 4 years. Like, where's that come from? You've been around Jason Riles. Mm-hmm. What do you think is his biggest attraction as a first-grade coach, taking over a new club from what you've seen?
Just by the way, this on the rundown is the Bulldogs turnaround year, but Stello's hijacked it into talking about power. But over to you, Cheese. Tell us about Jason Riles.
Jason Riles is... Well, I've been coached by him for about 4 of my 8 years in NRL, and all 4 years he's been the defensive coach. So the attraction is for Parramatta that the defensive system's about to get a full fucking reworking, because it's not up to standard at the moment. And I think a lot of his principles will come out of the Melbourne system. The inside shoulders and the working hard from the inside, I think, is something that Parramatta probably don't have. And if I'm a Parramatta fan, I'm looking pretty well forward to having Jason Riles as a coach, just because he's been in the English rugby union system as a defensive coach. They're pretty bloody good. He's been in the Melbourne Storm defensive system and the Sydney Roosters defensive system. I don't know if he knows a whole lot of attack. He was a front rower that had good bumpers back in the day, but I think Parramatta's got the attack. They've got the flair. They've got what you need to do to score points. They put 30 on Penrith. It's just they can't stop the points coming in.
We're going to do a little end of season award. So, Dally-M of the year, Cheese. Who are you thinking?
Hughes. Yeah, Jerome Hughes. That's an easy one.
I think he's a special, Jerome Hughes. I think Dylan Edwards probably feature up. Jerome Luai. I think a bit of a smoky might be Drinkwater. I think he'll poll well, but I think Jerome Hughes
I said the other day, if Jerome doesn't get it, I'll get a Kafusi haircut.
Fair play.
My missus won't like
that. Rookie of the year. Well, hard to go past Galvin, right? Yeah. He can't get... You know what? Producer Charlie was saying Max Plath, because he said he's only played 2 games last year, so he's eligible. So
what about Keanu Kinney? Can he get it?
Yeah.
I'll go Keanu Kinney then.
Coach of the year. What are we thinking there, gents? Let's hear from the boys.
I go Bellamy.
I'm going Bellamy as well.
In a tight competition, his team still won the minor premiership by 4 points.
What about storyline of the year?
I'm a bit biased. I think Michael Maguire coming in, first time as Origin coach, lose the first game, have to come from behind and win a decider up at Leighton Park / Suncorp. That's a pretty big effort, first year as the coach.
Cheese, a storyline that sticks out for you?
So I don't really read the storylines, but James Graham buys $10,000 worth of tickets.
James Graham / Ladbrokes.
They actually couldn't sell the tickets, so Bulldogs just gave him $10,000 worth to give out. He did it all for the glory too. That's sort of...
Now you have trouble paying attention. How are you going to donate to him?
That is brilliant, Stella. You've been... Who told you that one?
I heard it somewhere. Stole it from somebody.
And then I just want to say a big thank you to everybody here at Winghouse and Ladbrokes for organising this event, all the team behind the scenes. A big round of applause for them. Big round of applause for Stella. What a legend he really is.
Thank you.
And a big round of applause for Brandon Smith as well. And just finally...
And for James Graham.
And also a big thank you to you guys, our supporters. Thank you so much for being part of the buy-round journey. It's our first live show here in Sydney. We hope to see you again soon, and your support is genuinely appreciated. Thank you so much from everyone at the buy-round.